Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios for our special week of Florida in Focus. We did this back in February of 2021, and I've been doing a Florida in Focus connection all the way back to my time at ESPN 1080 The Team back in Orlando, Florida from 2009 to 2010-11 time period. So this entire week, all of my guests are coming to you from the state of Florida, where I have the opportunity to bring Wake Up Call on the road. And you know, we use the hashtags Wake Up Call everywhere, Wake Up Call on the road, and Wake Up Call OTR. So the Cafe Kubal Studios on the road with us, and happy to have you here. My guest of this entire broadcast today is Rex Culpepper. Rex played for HB Plant down in Tampa, Florida, is a native from down there, and had the opportunity to come to Syracuse and play for Syracuse University, and just finished up very recently here with this past season. He will be my guest of today. We'll have a lot to talk about on and off the football field, and we'll have some fun talking about the great state of Florida, which is the second home of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora throughout history. So with that being said, let's bring the man in. Rex, how we doing?
Doing well. How's it going?
I'm doing well, man. And I gotta give you credit because you're the hair pulled back and the shirt. You look like somebody who would know how to survive in the wild, and I respect the outfit.
Well, that's funny you say that. I actually am an Eagle Scout, and so is my father and his father. It's a family tradition. My brother is. So I have spent quite a few nights outdoors, and I could probably get you through a decent amount of time living off the land.
You know, and I can appreciate. What did you take away the most from being an Eagle Scout? What can you tell me about it?
Definitely, like most of the camping knowledge and just learning how to like use your resources out there. I spent a lot of time like hiking, camping, four-wheeling, things like that, and just having exposure to it. I think that's kind of invaluable, and also being able to just spend time away from like all electronics and not even having phone service, kind of being in your own little bubble in nature. Like that's just something that appeals to me, something I enjoy doing.
One of my favorite movies coming off of that, being away from technology and everybody just having to spend genuine time together, is the movie Grown Ups, where all these friends from school that grew up playing basketball together and grew up together in general, they all go to a cabin, shut away from everything. I love having those opportunities. You and I have talked about the friendships that you've built with a bunch of the guys, the Kylan Whitners and Ryan Guthrie's and Eric Dungies and whatnot. Do you ever think, or have you ever done anything like that, where you've gone out on a trip with a bunch of people to a cabin or something of that respect, where you're like, all right, everybody, let's throw the phones in this basket and let's just genuinely be around each other like people used to do without any electronics?
I haven't done that like specifically, but I do a lot of things with friends that like your phone isn't really a part of it. Like if you go snowboarding, like you might take a picture at the top of the hill or whatever, but once you're like going down, going up lifts, like you're kind of unplugged. And I would say it's similar with like going out fishing or going out boating. I mean, you get far enough out, there's no phone service, but it's just one of those activities where you're focused on a task, and the people around you, so you're not really on your phone. But as far as like being so fed up with technology, having to like throw it in a basket at the beginning and say like, all right, no phone, like, I haven't gotten to that point, but I wouldn't be opposed to it.
You know, and I mean, I think that genuine time, with friends is important. Those opportunities are important. You got to build a lot of friendships at Syracuse. Some I just mentioned. What can you say about, that part of it? We've discussed it before, but the fact that, you can really, through adversity, positive times, good times, bad times, whatever it may be, great record, not so great record, 10-3, 1-10, that those real friendships stay true. So just what you could say about the ones you built in Syracuse.
Well, you hear it all the time, so it's not like I'm saying something new, but a lot of people will say like, social media is the downfall of society, but of college football, and just kids caring about, how many likes they're getting or whatnot on social media and how it has so much negative effects. So I don't want to just be like an old boomer reiterating about how technology is ruining everything. But I would, I think there's some truth to it, and that interpersonal relationships can suffer because you might not care about the people around you as much as you care about the number of likes that you're getting. So football, like you go to football practice and you don't have your phone out there, and you're out there for 4 hours. So that's another activity where I mean, you don't even think about your phone. You kind of get back to it and you're like, oh shoot, I got a million text messages. What happened? Because you're so isolated. You're so focused on like your assignment or focused on the drill or whatever you're doing. So I think you do build a bond with teammates because you spend between workouts and practice, I would say close to 5 hours a day, completely unplugged.
And from those friendships that you've had and stuff that we've spoken about, what do you appreciate the most from the friendships you got at Syracuse that developed there?
It's kind of hard to pinpoint the one thing. It was mostly just having people that you don't have to talk to every day, but then like when something happens in your life that you want to talk to someone about, like you can just reach out and there's not like if I were to text like Whit, Ryan, or Eric about, hey, I gotta make a decision about XYZ, I wouldn't have to be like, hey man, like we haven't talked in a while, like have this big back and forth. Like we know each other and we're kind of like on call with each other. So I would say just having like smart minds at your disposal that you can just reach out to at any time and talk to. That's probably the most invaluable thing.
And you talk about friendships that you could pick up where you left off. I mean, to me, that's the truest of a friendship is the one where, like I can call up and I know a bunch of people in my life that I can make that phone call to a Matt or to a Ross or to an Evan or to a Rob or whatever it may be, that I could just say, hey, or to Lisa and say like, hey, this is what's going on right now. And like you said, they don't need the tell me all of this and let's talk about, we haven't talked, like they know you well enough to know how to talk to you, and they know you and they know your history and they know how to kind of navigate through things with you. So, my buddy Mark, you can just pick up the phone and have a conversation. And no matter how much time has changed in between, you can trust that they're going to be able to help you through it, which I think is pretty incredible.
Yes, sir. I agree.
So, your brother, Judge, we've talked about him in past shows, and I want to let everybody know that every other week, so outside of this Florida in Focus special week with Wake Up Call on the road in Orlando, Florida, to let you all know that every other Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Rex and I do a show that's a continuation of Wake Up Call and expands from Wake Up Call called Tea with Rex. Obviously, I'm the T. That's the Rex. Play on words. Actually, play on sitting down and having a cup of tea with Rex, and also the T-Rex side of things as well. Every other Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, where you're watching and listening right now. So, Rex, you and I starting to do this a couple weeks ago, we talked about Judge and his pro day and everything he's got going on. What can you tell me about, the excitement kind of coming off of that the fact that you and your brother really get to spend some true quality time coming up here after the both of you obviously had to separate with your college decisions and where you ended up going?
Right. Well, I don't want to just like reiterate things I said last week. So I'll talk about like over quarantine, Judge and I have never gotten to spend that much time together since maybe even before high school. We never played on the same teams growing up because the 2 years apart was always like the cutoff. So like if I was 12, I'd be on like an 11 and 12-year-old team and he'd be 10 on like a 9 and 10-year-old team. Then obviously high school, my first year there, my brother's first year there was my junior year. So he was on junior varsity and I was on varsity. And then my senior year tore my ACL and I didn't get to play with him at all. Then obviously he went to Penn State. I went to Syracuse. So like we always keep close about like workouts and just football related activities. But during quarantine, when we were both here for, I think 2.5 months, that was some of the best quality time we've ever got to spend together, working out every day, doing D-line drills with him. I mean, I would be playing center, trying to block him or what, just to give him a look. But that was I think we really came together in that time and kind of got closer than ever. And that's why we're looking forward to this summer so much, being able to have that whole month. I think it's the whole month of May. So I think he's coming home soon to kind of pick up where we left off in terms of quarantine workouts.
And you have that time together with Judge, like you said, the quarantine, there's positive things that come out of the quarantine. What positives for you kind of adding on to that? How did you utilize this time period to excel yourself, push yourself, grow, instead of sitting and complaining and staring at the wall? How did you use this past year to really make yourself better?
Well, I mean, I got lucky that I was quarantining in Florida and had access to a lot of like gym equipment. So I ended up getting in some of the best shape of my life, and got to spend a lot of time in the sun, a lot of time swimming. So it was almost like a vacation just because you know how it gets in Syracuse. I mean, when it turns gray in about January, it'll stay that way for a couple months. And as much as you stay indoors and work hard, there's something to be said about getting out in the sun, just kind of feeling like your skin open up and getting a little tan. So I was kind of living the dream life.
And being able to be down in Florida in a state that was more open too. Did it feel surreal to you, like knowing that in the state, because you spent time in both, obviously finishing up your time at Syracuse on the field and off the field. So how weird was the juxtaposition of a state like New York that was closed and a state like Florida that was relatively just as, if not more open than any other place?
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like we got to Syracuse from Florida pretty early in the like we got sent back to Syracuse pretty early in the COVID process. But I mean, if I remember correctly, when we first got sent home from Syracuse, it didn't really matter whether the state was open or not. I think there was so much uncertainty that like my family was like, yeah, we're not going to leave the house. We're going to Amazon. We're going to get, Target groceries to go. So Judge and I weren't even out testing the waters. There was just so much uncertainty, like, no politics involved. Just there's a virus out there. Some people are dying. I'm a cancer survivor. My parents are older. Like, we're not going to even take our chances. We can work out together every day and get ready for football again without having to be out and being upset about what's open and what's not. I would say the worst juxtaposition was like when I would come back to Syracuse. There's probably like 5 or 6 mom and pop restaurants that I go to like really frequently. One of them being Mother's Cupboard.
Yeah.
And it's sad seeing that they had to operate at half capacity, or that they got shut down a second time without getting any help from like the federal government, just because they're cutting their revenues in half essentially, and they're all like a family in there, and they don't want to lay people off, because that's like laying off your brother or your sister, and they're just struggling. And I built up such a good relationship with those guys over the years. It really made me sad. I would come in and it would be completely empty, and seeing the waitresses and waiters stressed out and having that fear of unknown, like it was sad. I would say that was the most like pivotal like difference between Florida and New York, was just like how hard the mom and pop businesses got hit.
And we hope, and I hope and pray and do what I can here in the community and in general to uplift them, because I have a great team of local businesses here in central and upstate New York, and just businesses in general, from Chick-fil-A Cicero to Honda City of Liverpool and Carvel DeWitt, that have ingrained themselves so much in our community. They feel like they're just as much a mom and pop as anybody else because of what they're willing to do to help the community and go the extra mile. And Chick-fil-A had a display outside where they had a cart where you could leave something for a family or take something for your family. And so it really, in the heart of all of this, trying to like put pasta out there, toilet paper, soup, and different things. And so, this community means the world to me. And I love hearing you talk about, Mother's Cupboard. But you said that there's a few places you would frequent besides Mother's Cupboard. Where'd you like to go to eat?
I'm a huge sucker for going to Scotch and Sirloin and sitting on the fire pit side and getting a bone-in ribeye with sweet potato fries. So that probably happened once a week during the season. And that was a place that they had no indoor dining. It's just, it's not the same for those guys. Like, you like to think, oh, well, people still order, but the kitchen I would go in and the kitchen would have my steak ready in 10 minutes. It's like, that's kind of sad. Like a place that's usually hustling and bustling, full of, local people.
Yeah.
Just being empty. I mean, I don't think they're a chain. They will get hit hard by the shutdowns. So that's another spot.
Okay. Tell me the rest. I like it, but Scotch and Sirloin, Mother's Cupboard, what else you got?
Mario and Salvo's Pizza. You ever been there?
Well, yeah, that's actually the Carvel that I work with, Carvel DeWitt, where I have my own sundae and my own shake. The Orange Dream is it's right there. So if you ever walk by and you look in the window, there's a picture of me in that Carvel that's right by Mario and Salvo's.
Well, I didn't know that, but that's another frequent spot that I go. And those are probably the main three.
Okay. Got to get you in Carvel to win, man. Got to get you in
I don't play anymore. I got to be careful. I can't eat too much ice cream.
I know you got it. But every once in a while, it's all right. But so, you being a part of this community and playing during Corona times and everything we had this past season, you and I have talked about a lot of stuff. So not to regurgitate any of that, but to look more so at the fact of being a student athlete that had to play at a time that was so unique and so strange and unprecedented. Now that you can look back on in hindsight 2020 the year and then hindsight 2020 figuratively, what do you take away from the fact that, your last season as a collegiate athlete was one of the strangest years in the history of mankind, especially recently?
All right. Well, I mean, it was strange for everybody. It's not like how someone singled me out and said, 2020 is going to be a tough year. I mean, everyone went through the same type of things. As much as I would like to say that, there's a lot of positive that comes through it, I think it was a little bit scary for like our country, seeing like how much of a divide there is between, people's ideologies and stuff, and how some people are forced to turn very selfish in the trying times. So, we made it through and things are seeming to get better, but there was kind of a dark time where I feel like I lost relationships with friends over political views that really had less to do with trying to help out your friends and more to do with having to turn selfish just because it's hard times and, money's tight. Things aren't the same as they were. So I think it was a little bit scary for like our country and just the relationships that I had with people around, Syracuse and Tampa.
Yeah. And I think it really kind of showed you who people are. And I say God hit a reset button because it stopped everything and it kind of made everybody look at who am I? Am I who I want to be? Am I around the people I want to be around? I mean, you really couldn't lie through this process. And I think that showed a lot. So as much as you said that it was trying and you might have lost some friendships and whatnot, do you feel like this past year, through all the negativity, actually had some positive of almost cleansing or helping you to see the things that you needed to see?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, here we are a year later and we're having this spike in like anti-Asian crimes. Like, I don't think it's over. I think that there's damage that has been done that, still has to heal. I think there's wounds that are left open. I mean, you see things happening with the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, I don't think that a lot of the geopolitical issues that have been kind of exposed are dealt with. I think that they were, kind of exposed and are still underlying problems. And maybe now they'll get the attention that they needed. And hopefully, a couple of years from now, COVID was a positive catalyst. But as of right now, I think that there is a little bit of chaos and that there's some loose ends.
And we see that as, in our country, Columbine was like an isolated incident. And when that happened, I remember being a kid, I was in the airport. I was on a trip to Disney with my family. And I remember, I think it was the end of our trip, we saw it on one of the TVs that was in the airport. And it was such a strange occurrence. Now I feel like every week, sometimes every other day, every day, there's a shooting somewhere in this country. It was an atypical thing. It was a unique thing that used to happen. And now it feels more commonplace. What are your thoughts on that? Knowing that a tragedy like a shooting in America was few and far between as far as like somebody walking into a public place. But now it happens so much more frequently that, it almost feels like it's becoming normal, which I desperately do not want to be the case.
It's kind of hard to talk about this stuff. Just, there's so many, feelings out there and sensitive subjects and sensitive people who've been affected. I mean, it's terrible. It's, anytime there's any shooting at all, I mean, I'm very like anti-war, I would hate for thinking about myself, like a typical day of high school, walking to class, having someone pull out a gun. Like, that's terrible. Thinking about my kids being in that type of situation is terrible. But I also respect that the underlying conflicts are very there's no clear cut answer. Like, they're very complicated. It's hard to know like what exactly to do. There's two sides to everything. There's politics involved. Like, it's just so complex, and I don't think anyone can really sit and say like, oh, if we did this one thing, this would never happen. Like, I think that society as a whole has to work towards working with each other. I don't know. It's complicated. It's something that's probably above my pay grade.
But you're young. I mean, you're young in this world, very young in this world. So, what do you aspire to see? I mean, because I think people forget, they focus so much on you're a quarterback, throw touchdowns. You're a quarterback, go out there and like, people look at the entertainment and they want you to win. Forget you're a human sometimes. And as a human being going through a pandemic, having to deal with that as a college student where you don't have a normal college life, as an athlete where things are different, when your family can't come see you play, when your senior day, there's nobody there. I mean, you go through all of that stuff, but then, you look at the world in a bigger picture and you see buildings and cities on fire and different things going on. So, how do you see it through the life of being a young kid? Because imagine your parents are kind of looking at you and your brother and your sister saying, for goodness sakes, I mean, you deserve to be a kid. You deserve to kind of navigate through the world in a peaceful world. And that's not what we have right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to like play the victim card in that type of situation. I mean, having to play in front of no fans, like, boo-hoo, I'm still playing in the ACC. I mean, I played with 100 kids in high school, and 10 of them might have played at the next level. And I know the other 90 kids would have loved to like have that opportunity. So I can't sit here and say, it was super hard on me. Like, I understand there's way more difficult things going on in the world. Things like poverty, things like civil rights. So my perspective on it probably isn't as well-rounded as other people who are much more affected by, I'm a little bit shielded just because my parents, my dad was very successful. Like, there's not been any financial issues in my life. There's always going to be food on the table. So for me to, kind of weigh in on other people's problems, it's kind of a situation that like I can't.
How important is it for you, though, to be a representative of something positive in today's world, that though you may not live the life of another person, obviously, that you still care? Because some people are very selfish. Some people look at only their problems, and them not being able to get a latte on the way to work because the line is too long in their mind is the same thing as malaria in Africa. To other people, it matters. So how do you, in your daily life, try to reach out and help other people, and at least, lend an ear or try to educate yourself to not be one of those people that says, well, if it didn't happen to me, it didn't happen, to be the opposite of that and say, well, if it's happening to somebody, I care?
Well, I think that not everyone is in a situation where they can help other people. Like, I understand when, life gets hard and you have to be more selfish, because at the end of the day, I mean, like, you have to take care of yourself. Like, I can't fault someone for not wanting to kind of have their arms open and help other people when they might not be able to help themselves. So like, for me, as being a quarterback, being someone that's from an established family with a lot of resources, like, I'm the type of person that need that, for our, state, our area to be a better place. Like, I'm the type of person that has to help the people who don't have what I have. But like, for example, like Scoop Bradshaw in high school, if my mom gave him money to, go get food, and, he passed a homeless person, like, I wouldn't expect someone like that to give, because, he's got his own family to feed. He has his own set of problems, and everyone does. So it's hard to say like there's an expectation for people to help other people, because like, you never know. You'd like to think that, if I help this person, then someone's going to help me, but the world doesn't quite work like that. So, I try to do what I can to help. I try to be like a role model to younger athletes that are trying to play in college, but at the same time, I understand when, I see people that have to turn more selfish to kind of get their own needs taken care of.
You brought up Scoop. When I met you guys, when I first started talking to you guys, it wasn't he is my teammate. It wasn't he is my friend. It was, oh, Scoop Bradshaw is my brother. And you talk to Scoop, and Scoop would say, Rex Culpepper is my brother. Bring me into that relationship, because I feel like it kind of got lost in the shifting from Schaefer's staff to Baber's staff and all the fans focusing on who's coming in, who's going out. And I feel like the bond that you had with Scoop way back that got to translate into Syracuse is something really special that I think should have a spotlight on it.
Well, I would say that Scoop and I, we were really friends. Like let me say this the right way. Like we were definitely brothers, but we started out as friends. Like it wasn't like he was this needy guy that like I came and I'm like, bro, like come home with me. Like it's gonna like me and him, we were always like just even from middle school, we were always on the same football team. Like he was always my go-to receiver. Like we just already had this like friendship. So then when Scoop had tough times in his life, like I was there for him to be able to lean on me, but there wasn't any like forced friendship there. Like it was a natural, like two aspiring athletes playing together since we were in elementary school, then middle school, then high school. So it was really natural, our connection and our bond. So it kept developing into college, but we also, we give each other our space. Scoop's one of those guys where like we pick up where we left off whenever we see each other. He's got a different life than me. He faces different problems. He knows he can always rely on me, my family, my mom, but Scoop's a very independent guy. He doesn't ask for anything. He could be facing all kinds of problems and he would never expect anyone to do something for him. Like he is extremely independent, extremely hardworking, and he's going to get it done. He's going to do what he has to do for, his brothers and brothers and sisters to make sure that there's food on their table.
To know him is to know what? How would you describe him in a few words? Because I really, from the beginning, when I came down to see you all at HB Plant with the 7-on-7 in the summer in Tampa, there was something about the kids that came through that program, including you, including Judge, including Thomas Allen and Walt Fillier, who's, in the draft right now, and Scoop Bradshaw and whatnot. So what are some words that you feel like, since you knew him from elementary school through, high school and, playing together in college and whatnot, what are some words to describe Scoop? How would you kind of, if you were standing up right now honoring him for something, what would you say?
All right. So, you see Scoop, he's got the dreads. He probably doesn't look like the most approachable guy. And I don't want to like ruin his street cred, but one thing about Scoop is he's a brother. He's a lover. Like he's someone that when, he cares about you, he will stick his arm out for you. He was a hell of a teammate. He brought up a lot of young guys. He was a role model for a lot of people. Like he's, when Scoop's got to be a gangster, he's definitely a gangster. Like, let me say that, but he cares about his brothers. He cares about his, the guys that he grew up with. He cares about the people who look up to him. And he might not be the most outspoken guy or the most charismatic, like outwardly provocative person, but he is like deep down inside, he's a really caring person. And there's not many people that I know that have dealt with the things that he's dealt with at such a young age, like especially like financial troubles. Like he is a tough kid. He's kind of a badass, the things that he's dealt with and came out on top and managing to be the first person in his family with a college degree. Like that's something amazing.
Does he inspire you still to this day?
He definitely does. I mean, my hat's off to him. The upbringing that he had, it wasn't, there was not a silver spoon at all. I mean, there was times where he probably didn't know where his next meal was going to come from, and he was able to get on the football field and use it as motivation and get a degree from a school like Syracuse.
You and I have talked about a lot of things here as we have our Florida in Focus series today, celebrating Rex Culpepper, former Syracuse quarterback, and someone I got to meet back at HB Plant in Tampa and have really gotten to know over these years and all throughout his time at Syracuse and now beyond that. We've spoken on problems with the world and what we can do. You, since finishing up at Syracuse, are working on being a part of that law side of things and figuring things out and how to make this world a better place. Why do you want so badly to work in the world of law and to seek a world where you're making a daily impact to make it better?
Honestly, so when you apply for law schools, they kind of want you to write something along those lines, something that has to do with, what inspires you to like want to make the world a better place. And for me, it's not really one of those things. Like I'm not, I don't want to sound like I'm not trying to help, but like for me, becoming a lawyer, like that's not me trying to make the world a better place. Like that's me wanting to continue on a business that, my family's been very involved in. My father, his father, everyone's been involved in law. I've always had a love for debate, things like that. So me being a lawyer, that's kind of me following my own personal intuition and kind of trying to find a niche where I can have my own family and have my own income and kind of my own place to excel. Because as much as I love football, it was never something that started to pay my bills. I'm not going to the NFL. So it's not as much me trying to help other people as much as it is me trying to kind of formulate my own foundation and get my own life in order to then be able to reach out to the society and help other people.
That comment here from Rex Culpepper, on and off the field today, getting to speak about a lot of great things. And you can be sure to see us every other Tuesday as an extension of Wake Up Call in a show that's called Tea with Rex every other Tuesday. So a couple times a month at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. To find out which weeks those are, when we're going to be on the air, and to get all that information, you can find us at Wake Up Call DT on Facebook, at Call DT on Twitter, and at Wake Up Call _DT on Instagram. You can also check the calendar of events that's on wakeupcalldt.com under the Who's DT tab. You can get the calendar right there, right around the homepage and all of that too. So Rex, to go back to the football field, you battled through cancer, you became a cancer survivor, and with all of the unknowns of the pandemic, you decided to play. Going back to that decision and thinking about that, was there ever any fear of the fact that because your body had been through so much already, that there was a major concern? Were you ever concerned? Was it ever on your mind, or were you just in your head saying, you know what, I got one more season. If we could do this safely, I'm playing?
I think it was on everyone's mind. I mean, everyone has their own medical history. I mean, there was so much uncertainty. It was a brand new virus. Some of my friends had asthma, some of them had sickle cell. Everyone kind of had their own concerns, like, oh man, I'm going to wear my mask around here. Like our team, we pulled together, and it was kind of unbelievable that we didn't have a single positive case during the season. But we definitely kept to our pods, kept to our position groups. We wore our masks. Like we took it pretty seriously, but I'd be lying if I said that people weren't concerned about coronavirus, because at the very beginning, there was just so much uncertainty about the cardiovascular effects, the long-term effects, and there still is. I mean, the book's not written. Obviously, practicing medicine, you don't, you practice it, you don't have it down. Like everything can change. So
did you personally ever think you weren't going to play, or like that you were going to make that decision?
I was frankly pretty shocked that when I think it was the Big Ten and the Pac-12 canceled their seasons, that we didn't come following after. Like when that happened, I was like, oh man, like it's just a matter of time, because that's a lot of teams right there. Ohio State, Penn State, like these are big time football teams kind of putting their money to the side and saying, we're going to go player safety first, which in the long run, it turned out that wasn't a decision that had to be made. It seems like college athletes tend to do, pretty well versus the virus if they end up getting it. But I would say our whole team felt a little bit dire once those two conferences backed out.
How did Syracuse stay one of the only schools in America that played their actual schedule on time for football in 2020? How did you guys, I know you talked about staying in your pods and this and that, but you're young people in college, and there's what, like 100 of you. So, I mean, listening to like not going out to the bar or not going out on a date or not doing this or doing that. I mean, it's not an easy thing to corral that number of people and to say, hey, you're not going to have a life. You're not going to have a life at all the entire season, no matter what it is. If you're going to be staying here, you're not going to have a life in the spring. Like, we really need you to be in this pod 100% of the time at all times with no break. So how did you guys do that successfully?
I mean, I think there was a variety of reasons. One of them being that New York got hit so hard initially that I think by the time where we got back to campus, New York was, Syracuse might have been one of the safest places to be. It seemed like the cases around the city were so low. And then Syracuse University was also on very high alert. Things, bars weren't really open. There wasn't as much to do. I'd like to say like the perfect Cinderella story would have been like our team rallied together and then we had this big successful season. Obviously we didn't, have all the wins to show it, but we did come together and guys care about each other and would, know that them going out and exposing themselves to hundreds of people wasn't just going to affect them. It was going to affect their entire team. It was going to affect guys that, they called brothers, guys that they spend a lot of time with. So in the end, people were, my teammates, we just all kind of pulled together and were unselfish for those couple of months. And then Syracuse actually sent home a lot of their students. So there wasn't really even much to do if you wanted to break the rules. So we were like, well, we might as well just have our own cookouts and just hang out with ourselves because there's no one else up here.
Did you guys get nervous as a team, pissed off, concerned when the student body as a whole came back to campus and immediately went out and had like a public event on campus? Were you guys nervous that that event was going to affect your team?
Forgot about that. Yeah, I think that happened late at night and we had like practice or something at 6 a.m. the next morning. So no football players were there, but that kind of started a rift between like our team and the other students. Like, man, we're better than them. Like, they're just out here not caring. Like, we're going to do the right stuff. Like, we're not going to be poster childs for what not to do. That might have been a good thing that happened because it made us kind of, I don't want to say look down upon, but just kind of be leery of, these kids, they obviously don't care. They want to just party and we got a mission.
Did you feel cheated of your college experience? The fact that, the last year that you were in college was not normal by any stretch of the imagination. And, you can't go out to like the bars and restaurants if they weren't open. And then if they were open, you still couldn't go out. You couldn't have like a normal life, even if you didn't want to, be a knucklehead and you just wanted to go grab some food from mother's cupboard and you wanted to just do like the basic stuff. Do you feel like cheated from the normal things that you do in college, which is date, eat, go to the movies, harmless stuff?
Right. I would be lying if I said that I didn't miss having fans and miss, having interviews after games and going out and celebrating. Like that stuff is really special. And it did make the season seem football is just really hard. Like everything you do is a little bit miserable. Like you're waking up so early, you're pushing your body into pain. Like when you don't have the opportunity to kind of celebrate what you worked for, it makes football a little bit dark and almost, we're not getting paid. Like we're not, seeing our checks in the mail after every game. Like we're busting our ass for not much of a reward. We're on TV, but there's something to be said about feeling the fans around you or, going out on senior night. So I would be lying if I said that I didn't miss those things, but I try not to, feel sorry for myself because at the end, everyone was dealing with coronavirus. Like it wasn't just me. So, that's my answer there.
What was the atmosphere like when the fans were there from your experience on the field? Was it what you expected, better than what you expected? How was it to play in the Dome from your point of view?
What do you mean when fans were there? Like previous seasons?
Yeah, like in the seasons where fans could physically be there and you were playing, what was that experience like through your point of view?
Right. Well, I got to see the whole shift from fans, hating us to then fans all of a sudden we're sold out and everyone's believing in us and that we're going to, beat Clemson in the year we went 10-3. When we played Louisville, it was senior night and the dome was absolutely slammed. Everyone was celebrating all the seniors, and it felt like we had really made a change. And then obviously the season after that, things kind of fell apart a little bit. And the fans are just fickle. It seems like when you're winning, they love you. And then when you're not winning, they don't really support you at all. It's kind of like, I'm kind of glad that there weren't fans when we, went 1-11, but I still miss them, even though they would have definitely been heckling me. But it was something special when we were winning the games.
You said you got to see the full shift. I mean, I got to see a change as well. And, it's positive and it's great. But like you said, a fair weather fan. I said, fans are fans no matter what the weather is. A fair weather fan. I mean, that's like anything in life. Would you want a parent that only loves you on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays? Would you want a girlfriend that only thought you were great half the time? Would you want a boss that, I don't know, took money out of your paycheck every other week? I mean, it's just, to me, nowhere in life does fair weather work positively. So did that put a chip on your shoulder? Did you almost like at times go out on the field at home and be like, you know what? Like, even though you weren't even on the road, did you feel like, you had a chip on your shoulder in a way?
Honestly, the way that fans kind of criticized football teams from day one, like our team as a whole, we were on the same page. Like, we are tuning these guys out. Like, it's great if they cheer, it's great if they don't, but like from the get-go, you're just kind of, what you're getting into. Like, you're a college football player. There's a lot of great things that come out of it, but one of the things is you're going to face a lot of scrutiny. You're going to face a lot of people's harsh opinions. There's going to be people in the stands who are going to boo you. Like, that's just part of it, and you have to just soak it all in and make the best memories that you can. But everyone knows going into the season, the fans are probably going to be brutal. I mean, even, you go to a Clemson game and we're hanging with Clemson. I mean, their own fans are saying things. It's like, they're yelling at Trevor Lawrence. It's like, it's Trevor Lawrence. It's funny to me. I mean, they ended up beating us, but when we were hanging close, their own fans were saying bad things. And it's like, oh, wow, we don't have the only fans that just turn whenever the weather is a little bit difficult. So it's just kind of the nature of the game, I guess.
Is it weird for you as a player, though, to get, to go on the road to Clemson and get booed, and to go to Florida State and get booed, and then you're in Syracuse in your home and you're getting booed? Like, how strange is that as a player to be like, are we on the road? Like, did I miss something? Am I in a weird dream sequence? Like, getting booed in your own arena, what does that do to you as a player?
I mean, what am I supposed to say? Like, getting booed makes me motivated. Like, it honestly, it's just kind of like you laugh it off, and you just have to think about people and their opinion. They have no idea how hard it is out there on the field. I mean, if you're getting tied up, worried about what the fans are thinking, you're worried about the wrong stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, there's an atmosphere in there, and it comes out on, third or fourth down when we're on defense, or, when we're having a big play on offense. But when you're out there on the field and worried about your assignments, worried about how the defense is lining up, it's not like I'm checking the free safety and the strong safety and then looking to see what fans are cheering. Like, it's kind of boys. So, I mean, as much as fans are important, at the end of the day, they aren't. I mean, they're background noise, and so you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt.
How do you turn it down? Because not just in sports, but in the world of life, people struggle with outside noise. And I put a quote out within the last couple of weeks, a couple times, where I said, outside noise by definition belongs outside. How do you turn it down and leave it outside of your home? Was it difficult to do, number one, in the beginning? And then number two, how do you successfully shut out outside noise? Because people are watching and listening to this right now that are dealing with all types of stuff from all different walks of life that maybe haven't dealt with either turning it down or shutting it off.
Well, I don't know if you can turn it off. You can really only change your mindset against it. This happened to me, and it's kind of bad, but um, so after the NC State game where I had spiked it on fourth down, obviously I was getting plastered all over social media. So, I open up my phone and I'm getting absolutely ridiculed. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to delete Instagram. I'm not going to look at it. There's one more game. I'm just not going to look. So I delete Instagram and I turn on my TV, and I kid you not, Sports Center came up and it was not top 10. And it was literally the play before my play on there. So I turn on the TV, just trying to get my mind off things. And boom, all of a sudden I'm on national TV on not top 10, or actually it was Come On Man. So they got me spiking on, Come On Man. I'm like, hey, you just can't escape it. So, I mean, for me, I would call my dad. He's, been in the NFL. He's dealt with all these kind of things. I would just talk to my mom, my dad, my brother, the people that care about me, and try as hard as I could, like, not give the time of day to the naysayers. But it's hard to escape, especially with how accessible athletes are with social media. Anybody can just get on and message you. It's hard to hide from it.
But do you feel like it bothers you anymore?
Not anymore, because like now that I'm done with college football, you kind of realize that what matters next is like what you start to do for a living. And so I'm working towards that goal. I've taken the LSAT, I've applied to law schools, and I feel good about, I'm making steps in the right direction, because, the people that are saying things that, they're talking down to 18, 19, 20-year-olds, those fans, like, their lives must not be happy enough for them to be able to be a positive fan, positive person. So I'm going to, put myself in a situation, there's a body of work behind me with a degree from Syracuse, finishing with a 4.0 from Plant High School. Like, I'm going to use those things to focus on what matters now in my life. It's kind of like an ages and stages type thing. You get so caught up and, wow, college football is the most important thing in my life. Here I am, like, figuring out what career I'm going to do. So, I would also talk, to guys like Whit. I swear I texted him. I said, bro, do you ever think about like plays that you had where you messed something up and you could have easily not, like, and he's like, bro, you won't think about any of that in a couple of months. Like, just get through it. All you'll remember is the good things, the positive times. And he was right. I mean, I look back fondly upon that 2020 season and throwing touchdowns, even though I know, like, people have all kinds of things to say about how, you threw this many interceptions, this many incompletions. Like, I think back about throwing a touchdown versus Pitt, throwing a touchdown versus Clemson, and then coming into the Notre Dame game, knowing, like, all right, I'm going to throw a touchdown on these guys. Like, they had all these fans. It was just funny. You go into Notre Dame, oh, welcome to Notre Dame. We're so glad you're here. They're all so nice. And it's like, God, this is like such a weird atmosphere. These fans are so polite. Like, you go other places. Like, you go down to Florida State and they're looking at you, sizing you up. Like, the cops are kind of like all looking mean. And then you go to Notre Dame, everyone's super nice. You can see the different atmospheres. But
yeah,
back to the point, it's kind of an ages and stages type thing. Move on.
So what would you say to a student athlete that's playing right now? Or what would you say to anybody who's focusing on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and the news or whatever? Like, what would you say to someone who's getting attacked on social media and just can't seem to, like, focus?
Right. I mean, the best advice I could give is that you'll move on and you won't think about, like, as bad as things seem, as much as it seems that the world is against you, like, it's just a game and people move on with their lives. You'll move on with your life. You won't think about it. I'm not going to lie, there's certain plays that might haunt you for the rest of your life. Like, man, if only I would have done X, Y, Z. But if you could focus on, like, the success that you had, my motto is kind of like, I don't want to look back at college and think like, wow, that was the best it was. Like, I want to be in a situation where I'm having a beer with Whit and Ryan and talking about Ryan missing a tackle versus so-and-so, or Whit having a penalty, like, making fun of those things, because our life has gotten to the point where we're so comfortable in such a good situation that we can crack jokes about things in college, as opposed to, man, I would give anything to be back at Syracuse. Like, I don't want to, my goal in life is that I would never say something like that.
Yeah, your goal in life is that you don't want to say that you want to go back, because you can't go back. You got to go forward. That coming from Rex Culpepper here. Final two pieces here. One of them being the shirt that I'm wearing. So this entire week of Florida in Focus, I have very Disney-oriented shirts because I'm a fan of Walt Disney World. So this shirt says Sivak Ho, which is the what on Avatar Flight of Passage they utilize it means rise to the challenge, and it's what the Avatar say is part of this like rite of passage and rising to the challenge in life. So what can you say about Disney? Do you go living down in Florida? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you like SeaWorld? Do you like Universal, Busch Gardens? What are you doing?
Okay. I don't know how much Floridians actually love Disney World because it causes a ton of traffic for one thing. And like everyone in Orlando knows, like, oh yeah, you do not want to be driving on the highways at these certain times. Like for us Floridians, there's less of like this special effect of Disney. Like I remember when I was little, like we would go and we would come back home and have to be in traffic or whatever else. We'd be like, oh my gosh, like that wasn't quite as special as we thought. Whereas people from like California or like all around the world come and it's like, oh my gosh, it's the most amazing thing. So we get kind of spoiled living in Florida. It's like, God, I kind of like Venture Island's better, or I like this roller coaster place better. So we're kind of spoiled here. We got a lot of amusement parks. I do like, I would recommend anyone to go to Disney. It's an amazing experience, but like people that live around the area, they kind of know that all the tourism comes with its drawbacks of like you'll be in a million people's pictures. There'll be a million people asking you questions. So there's kind of like the pros and cons.
Yeah, man. And I know I-4 all too well because I lived down in Florida and worked down in Florida and worked at Disney and worked at ESPN, the station 1080 at the time in Orlando. So do you have a favorite Disney park?
I always, I'm gonna sound so lame saying this. I can't even say it. I really liked the presidents, like going and like hearing what they all had to say, like the history. I know it's such a lame thing to say, but for some reason,
I mean, it's great. You're a historian. I mean, I get it. It's fine.
No, like I wish there was like I had like a better story. Maybe when they finish Star Wars World, that might be the best one. But right now, like I like the Hall of the Presidents. My mom always liked that one, so we would always go. And my dad's a big history buff, so that one actually kind of got a special place, just because we're kind of. I guess there's like a little bit of a scholarly vibe to my dad and my mom, just because they're very smart.
Yeah. I can honestly say that I've never heard that before. I may never hear it again, but our friendship means a lot to me. So it's another thing that makes you special. Mine is Expedition Everest, and you're sitting here. I like hearing about the presidents and society and how we grown. And I'm like, I like that it goes backwards. So like that's our juxtaposition for that.
Right. Wait, I have to say the Haunted Mansion, my dad used to scare the heck out of us when we were little kids. So that's a better,
right across the way from the Hall of Presidents.
Right. So for the more fun answer, like he would read us the Haunted Mansion book and do all the crazy, scary voices. So, and then he would like bang on the back of our seat when we were getting out of the ride, and my brother and I would be freaked out. So now that I thought about it, like, I remember that. So that's a more fun answer. Like, I'm not a lame like historian, promise.
Who's the more scaredy cat of those moments? Was it Hope, Judge, or you?
Oh, my sister, her name's Honor, actually.
Well, Honor. I don't know why I said Hope. That's. Well, I talked about it before, and yeah, okay. Honor. I'm sorry, Honor. Please excuse me on making a mistake on my own show. Yeah. Will she forgive me for saying that stupid comment just now?
Her only complaint with her name is that people associate Honor with like Hope, and like she doesn't sound like a Daisy. She wants to be like tough. So I don't know. You might have to ask her personally for some forgiveness or give her some airtime.
I'm so sorry, but I got Judge, I got Rex. I think Mom and Dad are okay with me, so I'll have to do something nice for Honor. But who was more scared, Honor, Judge, or you?
I would say Honor is the least scared, and then it's probably between Judge and I, because she's the intellectual. She's like, none of this could technically exist, whereas Judge and I are like, I don't know, the way Dad read it to us, it might be real.
Yeah. I love that. So she's the one I need to talk to, because I just did a show with Tammy Reese about horror movies and the top 5 and all that. So when I'm thinking about ventriloquists coming alive and Chucky and aliens and ghosts, that's when I call on her because she'll talk me through like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, something has to be like really captivating for her to be entertained by it because she sees through all the smoke and mirrors.
And she's the youngest of you.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So the youngest, and is she the youngest, toughest, smartest of the bunch?
Whoa, 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 whoa! I wouldn't say all that. I mean, she can get away with being the youngest. That's about it.
Okay, I'm trying to get in back in the good graces of honor, but
yeah.
But in the culmination of this Florida in Focus series special with Rex Culpepper with Wake Up Call down in the Sunshine State, our second home of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, obviously our first home, my hometown of Central and Upstate New York. I want to flip the script, and we're going to do 3 questions. Anything that Rex wants to ask me, it's called rapid fire. We've done it for a very long time here on the show. And so, Rex, whatever you want to ask, I have to answer it. And it can be about literally anything, whenever you're ready.
All right. My first one is, you know how there's like the whole like Florida person joke where
Florida man, yeah.
Yeah. You have a Florida man experience. Like, have you ever like seen something or read something or like been involved with a typical Florida man story? And would you mind sharing?
Yes, there's more than one, I'm sure. But this one comes to mind because it's insane. And I want to know what day it happened on because it's probably like the Florida man story for like that day in history. I was working at the ESPN station and we were on Semarin Boulevard. So right by the airport. So if you come out of the ESPN station, right across from us was a bunch of storage units on the ground. And then if you turned right and you went straight, you went right into the airport. It was down a few miles, but it was like a straight shot to the airport. And so I'm coming out and I was so exhausted. Like I did my show. I probably slept like 2 or 3 hours the night before because that's very typical of me. I can function on like no sleep, but I was kind of coming out of it a little delirious. So I finished the show and I'm going to pull out and there's traffic this way and there's traffic that way. And I'm right here. And there's that like cement median that you can't like jump over. And I mean, I guess you could try. And so I go to pull out and I'm going to the light and I stop at the light and this car goes by and it took a minute because when you've never seen anything like this before, your brain doesn't like register what it is. And this like, I think it was a Mustang. This Mustang comes flying by me, and I went, wow, he's going fast. And then my head went, well, you're in the left lane, and there's a cement here, blocker, so he's on the other side of the road where you're not supposed to be going that way. And it's all like in my head registering as this thing is like a Fast and Furious chase. This car flies by on the wrong side of the road, gets to a light that's a red light that I'm waiting at, cuts over where there's a break in the cement barrier and just starts flying down toward the highway with 2 cop cars behind him. And I remember going, he's on the wrong side of the road. Why is he driving so fast? It was early on a Sunday morning. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning. And I still to this day have no idea where he was going or what he was running from. All I know is that it was fast. It was totally on the wrong side. It jarred me. And he was heading straight toward the airport.
Well, that's definitely a Florida man encounter for sure. Never a dull moment.
No. Also, getting a phone call from one of my friends saying, I was like, oh, meet me down at Disney Springs. And this was in February. And I'm not trying to politicize any of this, so please understand this, folks. It was just a weird situation. So I said, meet me down at the Polite Pig, which is down in Disney Springs. And I like the barbecue. So I said, meet me down there. And he calls me like 5 minutes, 10 minutes later. And I was like, yeah, man, what's up? Like, we just got off the phone. He goes, I can't be here. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, they told me to put a mask on and I don't have a mask and I haven't worn one for a year and I'm not going to wear it. And it's my own thought. I'm just not going to do it. And I remember thinking in my head, like, I was so excited to eat barbecue, and because he wouldn't and they'll give you one, and he could have just put it on and sat down right after. So we had to find a restaurant in Orlando that would allow him to not wear a mask. And so we ended up having to sit outside at a restaurant. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I really wanted to eat at Polite Pig. so I'd say that's another Florida man.
Yeah. I mean, there's, you come down to Florida and you'll be down here, things are locked down or whatever, but I don't think you can control this state. There's just too much diversity. There's too many crazy people. I mean, we kind of get a bad rap sometimes. There are obviously Florida's a beautiful place, a lot of beautiful people, but we get the whole spectrum of craziness and things that happen. So
yeah, you run the gamut. What's your next one for me?
Right. My next one would be did you ever go to what was the most fond memory you have from your childhood of going to Disney World or any theme park? Is there a special memory that you have?
Yeah, I would have to say in 2008 when I got to bring my grandmothers, because it was the last time that they got to come with me and they were together. And I got to wheel them around Epcot, and I was working there at the time. So I brought them both to the ball, and I said, look up. And they looked up, and I said, welcome to my office. And I thought that was a really cool thing to do because they knew as a kid how much I always loved Disney growing up. I would say my other fond moment, I mean, there's so many, but I would have to say finding out I was going to work there because I got to actually be a part of the magic.
Wait, you worked at Disney?
Yeah, I worked at Disney on and off for 6 years.
So, okay. Skip this. Okay. If you have a good story, you can continue the question, but I got to ask, you got to have some kind of insider Disney worker story or fun facts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that I've been to the underground city that's underneath Magic Kingdom, and it's insanely cool.
It is insanely cool. I would honestly love to see it, but I know there's no way, but so the rumors are true though that it does exist.
The rumors are true that there is a fully functioning world below Magic Kingdom.
Wow. All right. Well, for a third question though, what's your favorite? I'll give you two because you probably have multiple, but what are your two favorite Disney characters?
Pluto and Darkwing Duck. So
that's easy for you, huh?
That was so easy. So Pluto's my favorite of the original. And it's funny because I speak for a living and I pick the character that barks. But I would say Pluto. I just love Pluto. And Darkwing Duck is the bastard child of Disney. They don't register that he was real most of the time. But he was one of the coolest characters. And I got to talk to on my Super Powered Pop show, which is the entertainment show. I got to interview Tad Stones, who created Darkwing Duck. And when I'm talking to sports, over 2,000 sports figures have been on the show. And I'm fine. I'm even keel. I'm okay. When I interviewed him, I was in a state of shock afterward. I was I just interviewed the creator of Darkwing Duck. And I actually, and I can pull this out right now, how easily it is for me, but I have the pop that hangs out here in the studio. But yeah, I'm a big old Darkwing Duck fan. And my favorite watch was him. He's like this, and you open his cape and the time was there. So yeah, I mean, I became a big fan. And when I interviewed Tad Stones, I said, what inspired you for Darkwing Duck? How would you describe why you created him? And it was one of the coolest things anybody's ever mic drop said to me. He said, picture Batman fighting crime, but then staying to raise his daughter. And I was like, that's one of the most incredible things anybody's ever said to me. It's Batman, but he's decided to be a father too. And I was like, this is cool because it was edgy. It wasn't your typical Disney show. It went to some places. So yeah, I mean, easily one of the easiest questions I've ever been asked in my life. So I have to say that.
All righty. Well, good deal.
That coming from Rex Culpepper, Florida in Focus series here with us. Make sure you find us every other Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time live on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. In the meantime, hold down the Sunshine State for me. I'm happy to be here. Sometimes you get to be here all the time. So it's my second home. It is your first. And thank you for all you do, Rex, in the community. And thank you for joining me and doing this fun stuff because I couldn't do any of the things that you and I get to do together without you being open to it and a part of it. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir. It's my pleasure.